Hello, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching Gravitas. I'm Shreya Upadhyay. Lots lined up tonight. Let's get started. Well, tonight our lead story is about how national currencies and not the dollar was used between Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin in the recent trade talks between the two. Is BRICS going to be next? That's the big question we're asking and decoding for you. A massive controversy erupted after Israeli Security Minister Ben-Gvir posted a video of Gaza aid activists being harassed on a flotilla. This incident has led to a full-blown diplomatic crisis, with world leaders condemning it and summoning Israeli ambassadors in different countries. We get you more on this as well. And amid the ongoing global fuel crisis, protests have now begun across different parts of the world, with citizens getting increasingly frustrated with the situation. We get you the latest. Our top story tonight is from the high-powered summit in Beijing that has launched an aggressive assault on the global dominance of the US dollar. Leaders of Russia and China have solidified a historic bilateral trade mechanism designed to bypass Western financial systems entirely. Now, this aggressive economic pivot is sending shockwaves through Washington and reshaping traditional alliance networks. Now, Xi Jinping and Donald Trump walked into Beijing's Great Hall of the People. Red carpets were rolled out, military bands played, cameras locked on every handshake. But behind the spectacle, China and Russia have been quietly pushing a move that could shake the dollar's global dominance. The images are loaded with symbolism. Xi Jinping stands waiting beneath giant red and gold state emblems. Vladimir Putin steps forward. The handshake is firm. And then comes the message. China and Russia are expanding bilateral trade further. And this time, the US dollar is being pushed further out of the picture. At their latest summit in Beijing, Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin signed a fresh package of cooperation agreements covering trade, technology, logistics, and energy. The two leaders declared that their partnership had entered a new stage. The key development is financial. Moscow and Beijing are practically all bilateral trade in their own national currencies. Predominantly, remember, the Chinese yuan and the Russian ruble. Essentially, no transactions in the US dollar in the Russia-China trade. And here the timing matters. Remember, the yuan is currently in its strongest position against the ruble in more than 3 years. And now, the Russian ruble is also soaring. It has increased 12% against the dollar since the 1st of April. This comes at a time when bilateral trade between China and Russia has crossed nearly $240 billion. Now, the US dollar is also on a 6-week high, though today it has marginally dipped. After Russia's attack on Ukraine in 2022, Western powers cut Moscow off from major parts of the global financial system, including the SWIFT payment network. In response, Russia turned to China and other non-Western partners to develop parallel systems that would allow trade to continue without using the dollar-dominated infrastructure. Now, Putin and Xi are moving closer to form an alliance to challenge the dollar-based global system. Remember, this is not just economics, it is geopolitical signaling. In Beijing, Xi and Putin repeatedly spoke about creating a multipolar world order. In fact, both leaders attacked what they called Western dominance as well and hegemonic policies. Listen in.
开展更高质量国际协作。
Engaging in higher quality international cooperation, reforming and improving global governance. The world today is far from peaceful. Unilateralism and hegemony pose grave dangers, and the world faces the risk of regressing to the law of the jungle.
Most important is that Russia and China are committed to an independent and sovereign foreign policy, are working together in close strategic cooperation and playing an important stabilizing role on the global stage. We are working together for peace and global prosperity.
Beyond Beijing, now the attention has shifted to BRICS as well. Remember, the grouping originally included Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. It has now expanded dramatically. New members include Egypt, Iran, the UAE, Ethiopia, and Indonesia. Together, BRICS now presents roughly over 40% of the world's population and around 35% of the global GDP, measured by purchasing power parity. Its share in global energy production and commodity trade has been massive. Beijing and Moscow have been pushing for a BRICS currency. But remember, there is one big obstacle to any BRICS currency push, and that is India. New Delhi has made it clear that a common BRICS currency is not currently on its agenda. In fact, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has already stated that no decision has been taken to create a currency to rival the US dollar. Now, while Putin and Xi are working together toward de-dollarization, the US dollar is the undisputed anchor of the global financial system even today. Its dominance is a self-reinforcing cycle of trust, of safety, and network effects, making up the vast majority of central bank vaults and daily currency trading globally. About 60% of global forex reserves are in US dollars. Around 60% of cross-border loans and deposits are dollar-based. And most global oil trade is priced in dollars. Yet, the pressure has been building. Russia and China are now openly building parallel systems outside the Western financial architecture, and Washington is watching very closely. It is also making rapid moves. An Indian delegation is expected in the United States soon. The US Secretary of State Marco Rubio is expected to visit India as well. Remember, as Washington intensifies its outreach toward New Delhi and the shifting global alignments. In Beijing, the smiles were diplomatic, but the signal was strategic. A slow financial power battle is now underway. All right, let's move on and shift our focus now. I want to start by showing you a video. Take a look.
Free, free Palestine!
עבודה טובה. ברוכים הבאים לישראל, אנחנו בעלי הבית. ככה צריך.
Free, free Palestine!
שקט. טובה. עבודה טובה. ברוכים הבאים לישראל, אנחנו בעלי הבית.
Now, the man whom you see repeatedly in the video is Itamar Ben-Gvir, Israel's national security minister and one of the most polarizing far-right figures in Israeli politics. And around him are Israeli Defense Forces personnel hitting, forcing and detaining a group of pro-Palestinian activists sailing on a flotilla with aid for Gaza. Subsequently, Israel announced that all foreign activists from the flotilla have been deported from the country. This 38-second video is now triggering massive outrage across the world, with world leaders condemning the brutality. Within hours, the footage exploded into a diplomatic crisis. The US ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, called Ben-Gvir's actions as despicable. He also said that the flotilla was a stupid stunt, but Ben-Gvir betrayed the dignity of his nation. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said, and I quote him, "The protection of civilians and respect for human dignity must be upheld everywhere at all times." In fact, he also added that he had instructed his officials to summon the Israeli ambassador. UK's Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper said that the video showed totally disgraceful scenes, adding that she had sent a summon to the Israeli embassy to demand an urgent explanation. Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni said the images were unacceptable and demanded the release of all Italian citizens involved, along with an apology. Australian Foreign Minister Penny Wong condemned Ben-Gvir as well, saying that the actions of Israeli authorities were degrading. Such angry reactions have been coming in even now from all parts of the world. The activists, remember, were part of what organizers called the Global Sumud Flotilla. More than 400 activists from 40 countries had taken part in this very flotilla. It set off from Turkey carrying food and other aid in what was the latest high-profile attempt to break the Israeli blockade of Gaza. Among them were doctors, there were students, human rights advocates and political organizers. Israeli forces intercepted the vessel before they reached Gaza, and now Israel says that the blockade is a necessary security measure to prevent weapons and materials from reaching Hamas. But supporters of the flotilla say that this mission was humanitarian and it was symbolic. They say that it was a protest against what aid groups describe as catastrophic conditions in Gaza due to months of war. Human rights lawyers representing some activists alleged physical abuse, intimidation, stress positions and degrading treatment during detention. Some women reportedly alleged harassment and forced removal of religious coverings as well. Israeli authorities dispute many of these claims and they maintain that security forces acted lawfully. But internationally, the optics have been devastating. This shocking video comes amid Israel being called out for alleged continued violations in its war against Hamas and Iran. The United States has not been able to convince Prime Minister Netanyahu to end the offensive, even though Netanyahu clarified that Ben-Gvir's views are not that of Israel. Remember, he continues to face pressure from within his own coalition as well. Let's give you a context. Many Israelis are now asking whether Netanyahu will fire Ben-Gvir after this as the security minister of the country. The question is, can Netanyahu fire him? Because it's a tough task. You see, Benjamin Netanyahu is dependent on Ben-Gvir's party for support in the upcoming elections, as he did in the last one. In March 2021, Netanyahu was asked whether the far-right Otzma Yehudit party leader Itamar Ben-Gvir would be given a ministerial role in a coalition. He had rejected the idea at the moment. Netanyahu lost those elections. But when he did win the next one in November 2022, with the support of Ben-Gvir and others, he gave him key ministerial posts. Plus, Israel's parliament, the Knesset, has approved this week to dissolve itself, potentially bringing forward a few weeks the next national election, essentially a snap election for Benjamin Netanyahu. And amid all of this, opinion polls and surveys predict that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will be losing the next election. Polls have since consistently shown Netanyahu's governing coalition falling far short of parliamentary majority. However, there's also a chance that the opposition parties will fail to form a coalition, leaving Netanyahu as the head of an interim government until the political stalemate is broken. So this entire controversy is more of a headache for Benjamin Netanyahu electorally, politically. The question now is, can Israel maintain broad Western support while some of its most visible leaders resort to violence and brutality on unarmed activists? Our next story is from Pakistan. The arrest of a 31-year-old woman named Pinky has triggered shockwaves across the power elite. From an aspiring model to an alleged drug queen with high-profile clients, she's now come under lens for reportedly naming former Prime Minister Raja Parvez Ashraf as a client. After a purported video clip showing her take the name of Raja Parvez went viral, this matter was escalated in Pakistan's National Assembly. Ashraf, remember, who had briefly served as Pakistan's Prime Minister between June 2012 till March 2013, made it clear that he had no connection with drugs. Earlier this week, though, Pinky told a court that she was being forced to implicate influential persons in this case.
I have led a spotless life. I am a 4-time member of this House. I have been the Prime Minister of this country. I have been the Speaker of the National Assembly.
Now, that's not all. Pinky leveled a big charge outside the courtroom as well, alleging that authorities were forcing her to take the name of a person living in Bani Gala. Now, this gave rise to speculation that she was perhaps referring to former Prime Minister Imran Khan, as he's the most famous resident of Bani Gala. Amid this, Pakistan's Information Minister Ataullah Tarar expressed solidarity with Ashraf, stressing that the accusation was so frivolous in nature that no one would pay heed to it. However, Speaker Ayaz Sadiq cautioned that the menace of drugs was making the whole nation hollow and urged lawmakers to pass an effective legislation to curb the problem. Now, let's also quickly tell you Pinky's background. Born in Karachi in 1995, she reportedly left her studies in the 8th grade and moved to Lahore to pursue a modeling career. As per reports, she got introduced to the world of crime after her marriage to a lawyer. After separating from him, she built her own network that used WhatsApp and social media channels to supply narcotics, especially cocaine, to clients in upscale areas across multiple cities, including Lahore and Karachi. As per reports, investigators have claimed that she allegedly sold drugs worth millions of Pakistani rupees daily. She was arrested on the 12th of May. She's under police custody at the moment in connection with multiple cases against her. She's also facing charges of murder after police alleged that the drugs sold by her led to the death of a man. However, the prolonged inaction against her has raised questions about her own connections with powerful quarters of Pakistan. For instance, multiple police personnel were suspended after she was accorded VIP treatment during her first court appearance. As per the police probe, she was not just escorted by the police with respect, but she was also provided with mobile phones. However, remember, this for Pakistan has been a nationwide crisis. As per the United Nations data, close to 7.6 million Pakistanis are believed to be drug addicts. Pakistan is considered to be a part of the Golden Crescent along with Afghanistan and Iran, as these nations are major opium producers. It's also known as the Silk Route of drugs, as they are trafficked to multiple parts of the world. However, after Taliban's strict ban on poppy cultivation in 2022, Pakistan is reportedly overtaking Afghanistan as the leading hub of global opium production, with poppy fields on the rise in Balochistan region. In the last few months itself, authorities in Balochistan have reportedly confiscated narcotics worth 25 billion Pakistani rupees, and therefore it is amply clear that Islamabad has a major problem on its hands to solve. Well, Well, the global energy crisis continues to send shockwaves through the world economy, with South America fast emerging as a continent in protest, from soaring fuel prices to rising food costs, from power shortages to growing economic anger. The continent has been witnessing a wave of anger on its streets, which is now testing governments across multiple countries. The protest began as frustration over the cost of living, and now it has spiraled into a much broader political and economic crisis. Millions are now questioning their governments over inflation, austerity, unemployment, public spending cuts, and broken economic promises, with the global energy turmoil only adding fuel to this fire. Bolivia is the country which is the current epicenter of the street rage. Hundreds of protesters march towards La Paz as the country continues to grapple with a deepening economic crisis. What started as strikes has now turned into a wider national movement involving labor unions, miners, transport workers, and rural groups. Farmers and activists have blocked key roads, demanding wage hikes, economic stability, an end to privatization, and even the resignation of the president. The protests have paralyzed transport routes and exposed the growing public anger over the government's austerity policies.
We are calling for the lifting of the blockades at once, please. That is what we're calling for as mothers. We don't know what food to give our children. The pot is empty. We have nothing. We are dying of hunger here in La Paz. We have been kidnapped.
But Bolivia is far from alone. In Cuba, the energy crisis has taken a more direct form. Citizens in Havana have taken to the streets as the island struggles with worsening power outages after the government admitted that oil reserves had run dry. For many Cubans, daily life has become increasingly difficult, with blackouts, shortages, and economic hardship driving public frustration. In Argentina, meanwhile, anger is growing over sharp public spending cuts. Tens of thousands of health workers marched through Buenos Aires. They accused President Javier Milei's government of cutting public health funding under its aggressive austerity drive. The protests are part of a broader pushback against economic reforms aimed at cutting the fiscal deficit. These reforms that many Argentines say are coming at the cost of basic public services.
Demand has increased enormously because there are people who have lost their social coverage, because they have lost their job, or because they have entered an informal work situation, and these people turn to public health. And many people who still have the possibility or the luck of having social coverage do not have money to pay 10,000, 8,000, 5,000 pesos in co-payments, and these people turn to public health.
Meanwhile, further north in Ecuador, union members, students, teachers and indigenous groups have all filled the streets of Quito. They are opposing the economic policies that they say are hurting workers and weakening social protections. In Venezuela, the crisis has taken a more political edge. University students and activists have staged protests against political imprisonments, with clashes erupting between demonstrators and security forces in the capital. And in Chile, thousands of students have marched through Santiago against education cuts and the rising living costs. The demonstrations turned tense as the police used water cannons and tear gas to disperse crowds near the presidential palace. As the global energy crisis continues to disrupt economies, push up prices and strain governments, the streets of South America are rapidly becoming the front line of a much larger battle over economic survival, governance and public trust. All right, moving on. US President Donald Trump returned from Beijing claiming success. But behind the handshakes and photographs, there was little tangible progress. China stood its ground on key geopolitical and economic issues. And now the fallout is becoming more prominent. From Taiwan to missile deployments near China's doorstep, Donald Trump appears to be turning up the heat on Beijing. While at the same time, China and Russia are openly pushing back against what they call is Washington's growing military aggression. Just days after his high-stakes visit to China and in a major shift from long-standing U.S. practice, Trump said that he could speak directly with Taiwanese leader Lai Ching-te while considering a possible American arms package for Taiwan. Now, this comment marks a significant escalation because, remember, the American presidents earlier have avoided direct communication with Taiwanese leaders since 1979, when Washington cut off formal diplomatic ties with Taipei and recognized Beijing.
Do you have any plans to call President Lai of Taiwan before you make a decision on the weapons package?
Well, I'll speak to him. I speak to everybody. We have that situation very well in hand. We had a great meeting with President Xi. It was amazing, actually. It was amazing. Many of you were there. We'll work on the Taiwan problem.
Well, Beijing has responded immediately to this. China's foreign ministry said that it firmly opposes any official contact between the United States and Taiwan.
China firmly opposes official exchanges between the United States and China's Taiwan region and resolutely opposes U.S. arms sales to the island. The United States should stop sending wrong signals to Taiwan separatist forces and take concrete actions to maintain peace and stability.
Remember, China continues to claim Taiwan as its own territory, and it has repeatedly said that it could use force to take control of the island if necessary. Donald Trump has been reviewing a reported $14 billion arms package for Taiwan as well. That could include air defense missile systems and anti-drone technology. So what will China do next? Well, a Pentagon official's China visit is reportedly in doubt now over the Taiwan arms package, and China has responded with displays of military force when the U.S. engaged with Taiwan in the past. In 2022, when Nancy Pelosi, the then Speaker of the U.S. House, visited Taiwan, Beijing had responded by launching 11 ballistic missiles into the waters around Taiwanese coasts. Could the call between Trump and the Taiwan president trigger a similar response? That's the big question. But at the same time, remember, Washington has been expanding its military presence in the region. The United States will reportedly deploy Typhoon mid-range missile launchers and HIMARS rocket systems to Kanoya Air Base in Japan's Kagoshima prefecture. During an upcoming military exercise between June and September is when this is expected. Now, the Typhoon system can fire Tomahawk cruise missiles with a range of around 1,600 kilometers, as well as SM-6 interceptor missiles with a range exceeding 300 kilometers. While HIMARS rocket system is a robust deep strike deterrent, and it can reach targets up to 400 kilometers away. Its shoot and scoot capability allows it to fire and rapidly relocate before enemy counterfire can target it. After the exercises, the missile systems will reportedly remain stationed at a US base in Japan. The deployment is widely being viewed as a strategic warning to China. At the same time, China and Russia have jointly criticized Donald Trump's Golden Dome missile defense plan as well. Following the summit between Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin, both countries had accused Washington of threatening global strategic stability through Trump's proposed ground and space-based missile shield. So just days after Trump's Beijing visit, tensions between Washington and Beijing appear to be escalating now on multiple fronts: diplomatically, militarily, and strategically. All right, with that, let's tell you what's coming up on the other side of Gravitas for you. We tell you why NASA has been scrambling to track a surprise asteroid. We're getting you all the details about it. And the Essel Group is celebrating 100 glorious years today. We get you the journey and a message from Chairman Dr. Subhash Chandra. Two leaders met, both of them played along and broke the internet with their Melody Toffee video. Rome had never seen diplomacy quite like this, and a gift from an Indian Prime Minister never included a toffee packet. When Narendra Modi and Giorgia Meloni met in Rome, you had the usual bilateral meetings, except nothing about Melody is ever standard. Quickly take a look at this video before I go further.
Prime Minister Modi brought us a gift, a very, very good toffee. Melody.
So the internet lost its mind over this. Photographs raked up more than 2.2 million Instagram likes in just 2 hours. Users flooded platforms with edits, memes, and fan-style posts. In fact, some even demanded a Bollywood song be played. But here's where it gets truly delicious. India's Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal said that India's toffee tale would surely be a melody to the years, and that the numbers back him up. India's confectionery exports have surged nearly 166% since 2013-14. Remember, this is not a small jump. It's a massive transformation. Indian sweets and candies are reaching kitchens and shelves around the world. From West Asia to Europe, demand has been rising, and it has now risen further after this particular viral video. Piyush Goyal credited the focused policy, better packaging, and improved quality standards for this growth. The government has been pushing the food processing sector hard as well, and it is paying off as Indian exporters have stepped up. Analysts say that confectionery could be one of the big beneficiaries of Prime Minister Modi's Italy trip. Because remember, India is not just a market anymore. It is a supplier, a competitor, and a global player. From diplomatic handshakes to toffee wrappers on foreign shelves, it seems like India's footprint may well be expanding much further. But amid all of this, India's opposition parties have mocked the melody gift, quite contrary to public opinion and the market sentiment. Leader of opposition in the Lok Sabha, Rahul Gandhi, hit out at the Prime Minister, saying that he's ignoring an ongoing oil crisis and other issues that plague citizens and the country, and is instead handing over toffees to foreign leaders. Well, while the debate still rages on, whether it was right or wrong, Indian confectionery is clearly having the last laugh, one melody at a time. All right, shifting our focus now, the world's energy map is being redrawn due to the Hormuz blockade. The choke point that handles nearly a fifth of global oil trade is now changing global oil politics. The world is staring at a full-blown energy emergency. Global oil inventories are falling fast. Goldman Sachs has warned that the stockpiles drawn in April have been running at twice the pace seen earlier this year. This comes after the International Energy Agency issued its sharpest warning yet. Global oil stockpiles are depleting rapidly, and at the current rate, the world may just have 5 weeks of accessible commercial supplies left. The West Asian war continues to choke crucial shipping routes through the Strait of Hormuz. The global energy system is beginning to show signs of severe stress. Tehran continues to assert unprecedented control over the Strait of Hormuz. The IRGC says that it has coordinated the movement of dozens of vessels through the waterway, even as talks with Washington over maritime access remain deadlocked. Almost 26 new vessels crossed the strategic choke point recently. The United States has been tightening its own grip in the region. Hormuz continues to remain under Washington's blockade. The U.S. CENTCOM recently said that American Marines intercepted an Iranian-flagged oil tanker in the Gulf of Oman that was transitioning toward an Iranian port. The impact is already reaching Europe. UK has softened Russian oil sanctions as fears grow over fuel shortages and the rising energy prices. The Keir Starmer government has decided to ease part of its restrictions on Russian oil. In fact, Britain has now allowed diesel and jet fuel made from Russian crude oil to enter the UK, but it comes with a caveat. The oil is first refined in another country before being imported into Britain. But London is not alone in reassessing its sanctions policy. Washington has been moving toward a more flexible approach in response to rising energy concerns as well. And now reports suggest that NATO is discussing the possibility of helping ships pass through the blocked Strait of Hormuz if the waterway isn't reopened by early July. Now, according to a senior official of NATO, the idea has garnered support from several members of the alliance, but it doesn't have the necessary unanimous support. Leaders from NATO countries will meet in Ankara on the 7th and 8th of July this year. But such a move would represent a shift in the military alliance's strategy toward the US-Israel war in Iran. And therefore, allies have insisted that they would only be involved in the strait once fighting has stopped and they can form a broad coalition, which includes many non-NATO countries as well. Now, all of this, remember, unfolds as economic woes continue to deepen, with the strait's closure sending energy prices soaring and growth forecasts tumbling. The Hormuz blockade threat has changed the rules of energy diplomacy. It is pushing countries to rewrite sanctions, recalibrate alliances. So energy security is the single most important thing that the world should prepare for. All right, let's get you other news now. Britain's Brexit battle is threatening to return to the centre of its politics, just as Prime Minister Keir Starmer faces growing pressure inside his own party, with several Labour MPs distancing themselves from Starmer and questions rising over his political future. A fresh debate has reportedly erupted over whether Britain could one day head back into the European Union and, more importantly, what price London would have to pay for that return. Because remember, Brussels has reportedly made one thing very clear. If Britain ever wants to rejoin the European Union, there will be no special treatment this time around. The UK could reportedly have to pay as much as $6.67 billion more every year than it did before Brexit for membership. And it is likely that Britain would reportedly lose a rebate negotiated by former Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher in 1984. That rebate had reduced Britain's contribution to the EU budget by billions annually. In 2019, the last full year before Brexit, the UK received a rebate worth nearly $6 billion. Without it, experts say Britain's yearly payments to Brussels could rise sharply. The European Parliament President, Roberta Metsola, has said that the EU's door, quote, remains open to Britain, but European officials are also reportedly signalling that London should not expect the opt-outs and privileges that it once enjoyed as an EU member. Before Brexit, Britain had exemptions from joining the euro currency, the Schengen passport-free zone, and parts of EU asylum policy. Experts say that any future attempt to rejoin the bloc would come with stricter conditions and far fewer concessions. The debate has intensified after senior Labour figures like Wes Streeting, the former Health Secretary, said that Britain's long-term future still lies with Europe. Keir Starmer has reportedly said that a national debate on rejoining the European Union could happen years down the line, even as pressure over Brexit continues to rise, at least within his own party members.
We've all said in the UK Labour Party, certainly in the government, we've been saying that Brexit has delivered enormous problems for the UK economy. I'm absolutely certain that a Labour government under Keir Starmer or whoever it may be by the end of that time will want to have a much stronger relationship with the European Union, because it's just about the facts of life.
Brussels is preparing for a UK-EU summit in July this year, where both sides are expected to discuss defence cooperation, trade, illegal immigration and support for Ukraine. But the message from Europe perhaps appears to be firm. Reversing Brexit would come with a very heavy financial and political cost for the UK. All right, moving on now. Tensions between the US and Cuba hit a record low after America indicted 94-year-old former Cuban president Raul Castro on charges carrying a potential death penalty, even though he's currently in Cuba. On the other hand, America has claimed that Cuba accepted its offer of $100 million in humanitarian aid. Now, what are these charges? Let's first understand against Castro. The U.S. Department of Justice has accused him of masterminding the 1996 shooting down of two planes operated by humanitarian group Brothers to the Rescue. 4 Americans were killed after Cuban military jets reportedly fired air-to-air missiles at the aircraft, destroying them without warning. If convicted in this case, he, along with 5 others who have been accused, can even be sentenced to life in prison or death. President Donald Trump, who has repeatedly threatened military action against Cuba, termed this as a very big moment, but he's ruled out the possibility of any escalation.
There won't be escalation. I don't think there needs to be. Look, the place is falling apart. It's a mess. And they've sort of lost control. They've really lost control of Cuba.
Now, amid this, the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has claimed that Cuba has accepted the American offer of a humanitarian aid. This is yet to be confirmed by Havana at the moment. At the same time, Rubio has stressed that the United States is facing a national security threat.
Are we offended that the Cubans have not accepted our $100 million? Well, they say they've accepted it. We'll see if that means it. Because here's the thing. We're not going to do humanitarian aid that falls into the hands of their military company that they have.
Earlier, remember, Marco Rubio had directly addressed the people of Cuba in Spanish. Rubio, who was born to Cuban immigrants, urged people to reject their current government and demand a free market economy. He blamed the dire energy crisis in the island nation on alleged loot by business conglomerate Gaza, which is reportedly controlled by the Cuban armed forces.
The real reason you don't have electricity, fuel, or food is because those who control your country have plundered billions of dollars, but nothing has been used to help the people. In the US, we are ready to open a new chapter in the relationship between our people and our countries. And, currently, the only thing standing in the way of a better future are those who control your country.
Now, is the United States planning a Venezuela-like operation to capture Castro on Cuban soil? Giving a very strong hint in this direction, acting U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche stressed that the former Cuban leader will go to prison by another way if he doesn't arrive in the U.S. on his own. On the other hand, Cuban President Miguel Bermudez slammed America over Castro's indictment. He said, and I quote him here, "This is a political maneuver devoid of any legal foundation aimed solely at padding the fabricated dossier they used to justify the folly of a military aggression against Cuba." Meanwhile, China has come out in Cuba's defense amid all of this. Beijing has emphasized that it firmly opposes repeated threats by the United States and its unilateral sanctions. It expressed support for Cuba in safeguarding its sovereignty and dignity.
The U.S. should stop wielding the stick of sanctions and judicial measures against Cuba and stop resorting to threats of force at every turn.
Well, the mood on the streets of Havana remains defiant as well, with people condemning the indictment of their former leader.
I am a revolutionary and I love my revolution, and I do not agree with a war by the United States here in Cuba. And it's an unjust accusation. I don't support the war. It is inhumane because there will be deaths. There will be many deaths.
Now, this latest flashpoint, remember, comes at a juncture when Cuba has run out of diesel and fuel oil. Amid this, another airline, Spain-based World to Fly, suspended its flights to Cuba owing to fuel shortage. The energy crisis is having a huge toll on the people, with multiple parts of the country facing power cuts lasting up to 22 hours a day. All right, moving on now. Think of tourism, and Thailand is high up on our list for most tourists across the world. However, in a move that could impact foreign tourists, Bangkok has now rolled back its 60-day visa-free entry scheme for 93 countries, including India, the United States, and the UK. Bangkok originally introduced this scheme in 2024 to boost tourism and spur growth in the economy that struggled to recover since the COVID-19 pandemic. So what changed now? Well, the Thai government has attributed this move to frequent incidents involving foreign tourists committing crimes such as shoplifting, overstaying, and illegally operating businesses in tourism hotspots. This decision also assumes significance as Thailand's economy is heavily dependent on tourism, which accounts for nearly 20% of the country's GDP. However, reports suggest that foreign arrivals in Thailand have dropped by 3% this year as compared to last year. So how will the latest decision impact Indian tourists, impact you? As per the Thai government, visitors of 54 countries will be eligible for a 30-day visa exemption. While it hasn't specified the list of eligible countries, it did announce that entry rules for each country will revert to its original bilateral terms. And therefore, for Indian travelers, it is expected to mean a return to a 30-day visa-free arrangement as per the earlier bilateral agreement. In the last few years, Thailand has emerged as a top tourist destination for Indians owing to increased air connectivity and the focus on lifestyle and wellness travel. The numbers tell a story in itself. As per the Tourism Authority of Thailand, close to 400,000 Indian tourists visited the country in the first 2 months of 2026 alone. Last year, 2.48 million Indians visited Thailand, registering a growth of 16.8% over 2024. But some tourists downplayed the impact the latest decision would have on tourism in Thailand.
I think people love Thailand too much to be, they'll find a way to come back. And it's a thing of, I think they're kind of trying to reduce the numbers that are coming, but it won't, it's like the #1 tourist destination right now. Like so many people are coming to Thailand.
Moving on, a giant rock from deep space appears almost without warning. Astronomers spotted barely days before it races towards the Earth. And now, space agencies are scrambling to track an asteroid flying closer than the moon itself. Our next story traces the frantic countdown and the science behind it. Take a look.
It begins as a faint flicker in darkness, a tiny moving dot buried inside millions of stars. Then computers flag it. Telescopes swing towards it. Scientists start calculating fast, because this object is not drifting quietly through deep space. It is hurtling straight through Earth's neighborhood. NASA and astronomers across the world are now tracking asteroid 2026 JH2, a newly discovered space rock that is making an extremely close pass by Earth on Monday. The asteroid was detected only around a week before its flyby, triggering urgent observations from multiple observatories. The asteroid is estimated to be between 50 and 115 feet wide, roughly the size of a school bus or even a basketball court. It will pass around 90,000 kilometers from Earth, that is far closer than the moon. Scientists insist there is no impact threat, but the late discovery is once again exposing a frightening reality. Space remains full of blind spots. This is not the first time Earth gets surprised. In 2013, the Chelyabinsk meteor exploded over Russia without warning. The blast shattered windows across the city and injured more than 1,500 people. The object was detected too late because it approached from the sun's direction. Asteroid 2019 OK slipped past Earth at just 72,000 kilometers. Astronomers spotted it only one day before its close approach. That is why planetary defense is now becoming a global priority. NASA's DART mission already proved that humans can alter an asteroid's path by smashing a spacecraft into it and thereby saving us. Space agencies are now building faster detection systems, stronger tracking networks, and emergency response plans, because one day humanity may not get lucky. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
May 21st marks the founding anniversary of the Essel Group, established in 1926. Here's a message from the chairman of the group, Dr. Subhash Chandra, as the group completes 100 years.
मैंने हमेशा माना है कि बिजनेस शॉर्टकट्स का खेल नहीं होता। ये निरंतरता और धैर्य से आगे बढ़ने का सफर होता है। जब हमने शुरुआत की थी तब कोई तय रास्ते या उदाहरण नहीं थे, सिर्फ दृढ़ विश्वास था। भारत की क्षमता पर अटूट आस्था थी और अपने मूल्यों पर भरोसा रखने का साहस था। मेरे लिए सफलता केवल उद्यम खड़े करने तक सीमित नहीं थी, बल्कि ये साबित करने की बात थी कि भारतीय महत्वाकांक्षा दुनिया में कहीं भी गर्व से सिर ऊंचा करके खड़ी हो सकती है। वर्षों के दौरान उद्योग बदले, तकनीक विकसित हुई, पीढ़ियों ने जिम्मेदारियां संभाली, लेकिन जो स्थिर रहा वो था सत्य के प्रति समर्पण, दीर्घकालिक सोच और संयम, वो जिम्मेदारी के साथ निर्माण करने का संकल्प। नेतृत्व नियंत्रण का नाम नहीं है, ये स्पष्टता का नाम है। लोगों को सशक्त बनाने का नाम है और ये समझने का नाम है कि कब धैर्यपूर्वक डटे रहना है। 100 वर्ष एक उल्लेखनीय उपलब्धि तो है ही, एक जिम्मेदारी भी है। महत्वपूर्ण है उसे सुरक्षित रखना, उससे सीखते रहना और इस संस्था को आगे बढ़ाना, उसे बनाने वाले व्यक्तियों से भी अधिक मजबूत बनाना। ये यात्रा के 100 वर्ष पूरे ही नहीं बल्कि शुरू हुए हैं।
Shortly, you will be reaching 100 years. My advanced best wishes to all of you. But I would expect, and with that, I will end my observations. Remain young at 100 and remain young ever. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Jai Hind.
एसेल ग्रुप आने वाले 100 वर्षों के लिए देश और मानवता की प्रगति और सेवा के लिए समर्पित रहेगा। जय हिंद।
All right, on that note, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas. As always, we will keep getting you analysis and news updates from across the world. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Bye-bye. Good night.
In West Asia, every move shifts the world's balance. Wars, ceasefires, alliances, power never stands still. From Tehran to Tel Aviv, from Damascus to Doha, the West Asia Post cuts through the chaos to reveal the region that shapes the world. Because what happens in West Asia never stays in West Asia. This is the West Asia Post, the region's story, the world's impact.
In this rapidly changing world, is your health keeping pace? Best practices and breakthroughs busting the hype with real insights. The timeless power of yoga and ancient healing. Good food, good mood. Small steps, big impact. Your health